All right, y'all. So listen, we back with another strange and mysterious discovery video. This one here is, this fell from the sky, but no one knows what it is. All right. So we're going to get right into it. If you're new, you know what to do, man. Hit that subscribe button and join the family. Let's check it out.
Sometimes we find the strangest things in the most unexpected places. I'm not talking about simply finding something you misplaced in your house, but something completely bizarre by the road, on the beach, or even in your basement. In this video, we'll take a look at some of the craziest things people found in the unlikeliest places. From an astounding medieval distillery to a mysterious safe, here are 15 bizarre discoveries found in unexpected places. Number 15. Medieval Distillery. Have you ever wondered what the world's oldest whiskey tastes like? Archaeologists
Yes, I actually have wondered. Wondered a lot, actually. Now I'm just playing.
Unexpectedly stumbled upon a medieval structure at Lindores Abbey, located in eastern Scotland. Unsurprisingly enough, what they found was a distillery that dates back to the Middle Ages. The structure unearthed on the site contained charcoal, barley, oats, and wheat. About 1,000 years ago, monks in the abbey used bowls of malt to produce the product that we now know as Scotch whiskey. The monks on the land continued producing whiskey until around the 16th century, when the abbey was attacked and destroyed. However, people decided to revive its legacy and build what is now known as the Lindores Abbey Distillery, where decadent and fine whiskey continues to be produced.
Okay.
Before we go on, like this video, smash the subscribe button, and click the notification bell right now. Number 14. The Piano Man. In the early 2000s, people were baffled by the appearance of a young man who turned up in a small British town. The man was soaking in seawater, but his attire suggested that he just attended a formal event. When he was questioned about his identity and who he was, he couldn't answer any questions. For a few days, the locals kept asking him simple questions about his identity and his hometown, but the strange man couldn't provide a single answer. Authorities tried to find a way to find out about the man's identity, and it came in the unlikeliest form. Staff in the hospital
Sound like a time traveler to me. I know a time traveler when I see one or hear one.
where the man was temporarily confined had the great idea to give their unknown visitor pieces of paper and pencils. Curiously, the man grabbed the tools he was provided and began drawing an incredibly detailed sketch of a grand piano. It was the very first time that the man did something, and so the hospital staff hoped that he would slowly begin to recover his identity. After seeing the sketch, one of the hospital staff decided to put a piano inside the unknown man's room. It turned out that their unlikely visitor was a magnificent pianist who skillfully performed hauntingly beautiful and melancholic melodies. The man refused to speak or draw anything else. Instead, he kept playing the piano he was given. For this reason, he became known as the Piano Man. It was weeks later that people began suspecting that the man must have really been suffering from amnesia or trauma, making it difficult for him to express himself through anything other than music. The man played several parts of Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake occasionally, but most often than not, he played his own little compositions. It wasn't until months later that authorities found a lead about the man's identity. It turned out that the Piano Man was 20 years old, and his name was Andreas Grassi. He lived in the tiny village of Prostorf, located in the heart of the forest of Bavaria. Those who knew him personally confirmed Andreas' identity, and even managed to describe him accurately. Many of them claimed that the young man was a good student who majored in French and biology, and so many of them were quite bewildered as to how the man ended up in the British town to begin with. According to Andreas' neighbors, the last time they saw the young man was before he left for civilian service, where German men could work in hospitals, elderly homes, and other public installations as opposed to mandatory military service. Many of them noted that the young lad seemed to be incredibly different after going through the so-called service. And so, the mystery behind the Piano Man's real story remains to this day.
Something just ain't sitting right with me about this story. It's just, I got a bad feeling like something happened to him.
Day. Number 13. Abandoned lifeboat. It's not unusual to see boats sailing through the ocean, but when an abandoned lifeboat was spotted in the most isolated and uninhibited place on Earth, many were incredibly bewildered. The island of Bouvet is a sub-Antarctic volcanic island located in the South Atlantic Ocean at the southern end of the Mid-Atlantic Ridge. Because of its location, its population remains at zero to this day. After all, it's incredibly daunting to try and survive in the frozen wasteland. As such, when the Royal Navy's Antarctic ice vessel named HMS Protector explored the perimeter of the island, they were incredibly surprised when they spotted a lagoon in the middle of the island. At the center was an abandoned lifeboat that shouldn't have been in there in the first place. The boat had no markings to indicate its origins, and there were also no other traces of human life around the area.
That's not a
good sign. The crew walked around the freezing island and saw no signs of human activity. The existence of the lifeboat is a complete mystery, but the crew was forced to return. 2 years later, another expedition was launched, and people came back to the island. They expected to see the lifeboat still floating in the middle of the lagoon on the island. But weirdly enough, it was nowhere to be found. And so to this day, we don't know who left the lifeboat in the water and where it disappeared to after the first expedition team spotted it. Years later, the truth was finally revealed. It turned out that the lifeboat didn't mysteriously appear on the island. Instead, a group of researchers used it. But because of inclement weather, they were forced to stay on the island for several days before returning home via aircraft. Mystery solved. Number 12.
Yeah, man, but leave some sort of information for others that may roll up on this and think that something happened or went wrong and put themselves in danger, man. Isn't it some kind of way you could leave something behind? It's like, no, nothing's wrong here.
In a bottle. Have you ever stumbled upon a message in a bottle before? Although throwing a letter inside a bottle in the ocean sounds like a romantic idea, it doesn't always work, and there's a huge chance that you just polluted the ocean instead of connecting with another person hundreds or even thousands of miles away from you. However, there are also some lucky people who somehow manage to find a message in a bottle. What's more amazing is that some of them date back to an entire century ago. In 2018, a man discovered a message in a bottle dating back to 1886. It was discovered half buried in the white sand of a beach in Australia, and ever since then, it was referred to as the oldest message in a bottle ever discovered. The letter indicated the date the bottle was thrown into the ocean and the location where it was thrown. It was a pretty basic message, and there wasn't really anything special about it. However, the title of being the oldest message in a bottle has now been snatched by a small Victorian time capsule that was kept hidden beneath the floorboards of a house in Edinburgh for about 135 years. The message in a bottle was discovered by a plumber who was working on the property. Fortunately for him, he managed to avoid hitting the bottle. The contents of the letter was quite interesting, to say the least. The letter was signed by two individuals named James Ritchie and John Grieve. It was dated October 6, 1887, and a short message was left by the two to whoever discovered the message. At the end of the message was a small remark about the two being deceased by the time someone found the note. The owners of the home had to break the bottle to reach the letter safely. However, they decided to preserve it by putting the letter in an acid-free pocket. Number 11. Desert Ship Graveyard, Uzbekistan. The last thing you will expect to find in the middle of the desert are boats. And yet, in Moynak, Uzbekistan, several abandoned vessels are slowly being eaten away by rust. Because of the vessels present in the area, it became known as a ship graveyard. Needless to say, it was quite haunting to see the remains of the ships in an area devoid of water or human life. Only tourists who want to take photos around the area dare to visit the said graveyard. In the past, the people of Moynak thrived by fishing in the ocean. The Aral Sea blessed them with seafood. But as years passed by, the Aral Sea changed. The locals noticed that the water slowly receded, and the ocean decreased in size and volume. Instead of taking the risk of losing their only means of making a living, many of the people in Moynak relocated elsewhere immediately and abandoned the ships that once helped them earn their salary. Number 10. The Ship Island. Since we're already talking about boats, I want you to take a look at this floating forest off the harbor in Sydney, Australia. Now, this is definitely among the most mysterious and intriguing things on the planet.
When did this become a thing? Like, we're starting to see more and more of these. And I find it rather odd. You know what I mean? Like, it's slowly becoming a thing.
In the past, the skeleton of this vessel used to be a military warship that was used during World War II. It had the special role of transporting supplies across the Pacific waters. But as it was decommissioned, it was left floating on the water until something magical happened. Many wrecks can be found around the area, known as Homebush Bay. But the warship known as SS Airfield seemed to be the one chosen by nature herself. Trees and plants soon began to flourish on the vessel. It's been decades since the first green plants grew on the abandoned vessel, but it's still floating to this day. For this reason, the island ship became among the most popular tourist attractions in the area for its uniqueness and beauty. A vessel that saw war now takes care of its own little system of animals and trees. Number 9.
That's crazy.
Lucky fishing hook. I don't know about you, but the last time I checked, jewelry didn't belong inside sea creatures. And yet, an angler discovered an engagement ring inside a fish's stomach in 2019. The man was on a fishing trip at Chapel St. Leonard's along with his then-girlfriend when they netted several fish. They decided to let go of the small fish and keep the largest and most beautiful catch for themselves. Little did they know how good of a choice they picked. While preparing the seafood for dinner, the man's partner discovered a gleaming stone inside the stomach of the fish. Bewildered, she inspected the strange object more properly and realized that he discovered an engagement ring. It was apparently great timing as her boyfriend thought it was a good time to propose. Upon seeing the ring,
only us would think of a good time like that. Only us would do that. Only men. Hey, you know what? I mean, I ain't getting no younger. It's now or never. I got the ring here now. It just showed up. It's got to be a sign. Only us would do that.
The man popped the question to his girl, and even though it had fish guts all over it, the woman agreed. This might sound like an insane experience, but perhaps this jewelry fish fiasco is weirder. An Australian woman spotted this strange...
She gotta love you. She said, I do, for a ring that got fish guts on it. It's a lot of women ain't going for that.
Fish with a ring stuck around its neck while snorkeling in Emily Bay on Norfolk Island, off the eastern coast of Australia. It just so happened that the wedding band gleamed in the sunlight, which easily caught the attention of the snorkeler. Unfortunately, she didn't catch the fish or manage to free the little lad of its demise. Number 8. Rubber duckies in the ocean. Rubber duckies belong in the water. After all, these toys are considered the #1 bath toy. However, did you know that there's a high chance you'll discover rubber duckies that were made in 1992 while exploring the beach? That year, a cargo ship in the North Pacific accidentally dropped a container on its way from China to the United States. Unfortunately for them, the container had about 29,000 rubber ducks, also known as friendly floaties. You might be thinking, what's the worst that can happen? So I'll save you some time by telling you the impact of the lost container. For years, dozens, even hundreds of rubber duckies were spotted in several parts of the ocean. Internet sleuths and research students saw challenges predicting the exact route the friendly floaties would take. Many people used and exhausted all their resources to figure out where the waves of the ocean would take the yellow novelty toys. Unfortunately, the tragic accident also sent plastic waste into the waters of the ocean and possibly affected several ecosystems.
That's the
Number
bad
7.
part.
1,000 human teeth. Finding a single human tooth around your property doesn't sound creepy. It's just a single tooth after all, and there's a high chance that it's a tooth that was thrown out by the past owners of the house. However, there's something incredibly alarming about finding no less than 1,000 individual human teeth behind the walls of your house. More than 1,000 individual human teeth were discovered on the second floor of the Converse building in the state of Georgia. It was incredibly strange to find teeth hidden behind the walls. But it wasn't too far-fetched, considering the building was once occupied by a dentist named Clarence Whittington in 1900. But even still, why would you, as a dental practitioner, have the need to hide teeth behind the walls? Unfortunately, the mystery behind these seemingly misplaced teeth was never solved. If you have any theories, let me know in the comments down below.
No, that's a case that should never go cold. They need to find him and figure this out, bro. Or at least he should be suspended from practicing any type of dentistry work ever again until they figure this out, bro. This sounds like some, I don't know, man. It's just teeth without, no, you're not supposed to come across teeth like that, man.
Number 6. Toothbrush inside the human body. Being a doctor in the emergency room can be a pretty wild experience. You'll most likely encounter all sorts of things, from frightening to downright bizarre. I mean, just imagine the reaction from doctors at a hospital in China when a man visited them to remove a toothbrush that accidentally went down his throat. It sounds like a very unlikely story, but this incident actually happened. A man living in Taiju in China's
How?
Jiangsu province was allegedly sleepily brushing his teeth one morning when he accidentally swallowed his toothbrush. He first loosened his grip on the handle and accidentally inserted the 15-centimeter long brush down his throat. While trying to remove it, he ended up shoving it further down, instead of making the situation worse. Or rather, instead of solving the worst-case scenario by himself, he immediately thought of driving toward the nearest hospital to get it removed. Although the entire situation sounds like something straight out of a comedy, it's not really impossible for the human brain to do stupid things, especially when we lack sleep. So just in case you ever brush your teeth half asleep, just remember that this is a possibility. Number 5.
He lucky he ain't puncture something, man.
Giant metal die. Locals near a lake in Idaho were incredibly bewildered when they found a massive, giant, rusty die on the lake shore. One of the object's sides had pipes coming out of it, and just like the dice we use for playing, the massive metal model had all the right numbers on each side. The object was incredibly massive, measuring about 6 feet by 6 feet. What's strange about the entire discovery, however, was the fact that the white dots on each side of the box were relatively cleaner than the rest of the object's surface. For this reason, locals believed that the metal box washed onto the shore, and someone decided to put the white decals on the surface to make it look like a die. Quite creative, don't you think? I don't know what compelled them to waste time and effort to make a massive metal die, but surely the locals were delighted by the bizarre news. Number 4.
Because it got the reaction that whoever did it wanted. You know what I mean? That's the type of reaction I would have been looking for, to get everybody all riled up.
Lost wedding ring. Cindy Blackham was playing around in her grandparents' home in New Britain, Connecticut, when she discovered a gold wedding band on the edge of the sidewalk. As an 8-year-old kid, she believed that finders were keepers and wore the ring on her finger. Because of its large size, it quickly lost its luster and shine. The young girl soon lost interest and kept it in her jewelry box. It wasn't until 40 years later that she remembered the jewelry she found as a child. After 4 decades of keeping the wedding band, she decided to find its real owner. Unbeknownst to her, a couple by the name of Renata and Edward Simpson, who lived across the street from her grandparents' house where she played as a kid, owned the ring she picked up. Fortunately,
No way. First of all, she was bored. She was bored in her life and didn't have anything else to do. That's the only thing I can think of to explain you trying to find the owners after you've had this ring for 40 years. What if you rolled up on them and they tried to have you arrested?
the street from her grandparents' house where she played as a kid, owned the ring she picked
40
up.
years.
Fortunately, the ring had the couple's initials inscribed on the inside of the band, as well as the date of the wedding, the 30th of July, 1969. After realizing that the ring had an inscription, Cindy quickly deduced that the owners of the ring were her grandparents' neighbors all along. In the end, the ring found its way back to its owner. Number 3.
I know he was happy. She probably been giving him. Oh, his wife probably been going in on him for 40 years. I know he happy to get that ring back.
Bag of severed hands. No matter where you find a bag of severed human hands, it will always be considered unexpected. I mean, seriously, who would want to find a bag of chopped up human body parts?
Dahmer.
That's incredibly horrifying. And so just imagine what the fisherman in Siberia who found a bag of severed human hands felt. The discovery became sensationalized in 2018, and it wasn't surprising that a lot of people who heard the news were quite shaken up by the grisly discovery. Overall, about 27 pairs of frozen, severed human hands were discovered all in the same bag. According to the fisherman, he initially saw a strange finger sticking out of the white snow, and it was then that he realized that what he saw were human hands. The fisherman immediately reported his discovery to the authorities, and initially they were too stumped and did not know the source of the severed body parts. People who heard the news thought that a deranged serial killer was on the loose, or someone was pulling an elaborate prank. Luckily, the truth wasn't as sinister. It turned out that the hands were actually biological waste that were disposed of by a forensics laboratory. The lab was supposed to dispose of the hands properly, but somehow 54 of the severed hands ended up floating along the frozen riverbank. What's strange, however, is the fact that the laboratory didn't reveal why they had the hands in the first place. It was normal for a forensic laboratory to handle severed human body parts, but the number of hands inside the bags seemed to be a rather large amount for a small laboratory in a relatively isolated area. Number 2.
They should have got a huge fine. I can't even leave my trash can out more than one day, or the HOA here is fining me. These jokers left hands out. I know they got fined.
2,400-year-old soup. We all love hearty soup, and people from thousands of years ago also loved this homey dish. Recently, archaeologists unexpectedly stumbled upon one of the oldest soups ever discovered. Now, you're probably wondering what's so special about it. You see, the soup discovered can be traced as far back as 2,400 years ago. The soup was discovered in a tomb near the ruins of what was once the nation's capital city, Xi'an. If this sounds familiar, it's because this is the area where the famous terracotta army was discovered. People today often cook soup in metal or clay pots, but in ancient China, people often stored their bone broths in massive and intricately detailed receptacles made of bronze. In the past, people enjoyed using cow ribs to create the most delicious hearty soup. The bronze cooking pot had a diameter of 24.5 centimeters and a height of about 20 centimeters. Unfortunately, the soup already turned green, and as expected, it wasn't safe for consumption anymore. However, it was still interesting to see what a 2,400-year-old soup looked like. What's more, the discovery helped historians to learn more about ancient Chinese culture. And now, it's time for today's topic. This fell from the sky, but no one knew what it was. A hunter claimed to have spotted this strange object lying in the middle of the woods he often explored. He had no idea what it was, but decided to take a photo of the strange object. The next day, he went back and he found no trace of the strange thing in the middle of the forest, almost as if it disappeared into thin air. He decided to post this photo on the internet to seek help in identifying the strange object. Needless to say, people have a lot of interesting theories about the photo. Because of how bizarre it looked, many were convinced that the object the man saw was actually a massive alien spacecraft that somehow crash-landed onto our planet. However, some believe that the entire photo was a hoax created by the hunter himself. What do you think? Could it be that
I don't even know where to begin.
extraterrestrial creatures visited Earth before? As always, comment down below with the hashtag today's topic and let us know your opinion about what we just showed on screen. With that said, let's keep things moving. Number 1. Mysterious safe. Finding a safe in the middle of nowhere either means you've stumbled upon a jackpot or a curse. People discovered a strange safe on the edge of a field in Bar, New York in 2020. Needless to say, it was an unexpected discovery. When the safe was found, it was covered with rust and dirt. It weighed between 500 to 600 pounds and heavy machinery was needed to properly transport the object. People who found the object tried to locate the owners of the safe, but to no avail. And so, they did the next most logical thing. They tried to open the safe and find out its contents, and hopefully get a clue about its owner. While examining the safe, however, people on the farm discovered a small note attached to it, with a message stating that whoever was able to open the safe could keep what was inside of it. Needless to say, it didn't take long before people began whipping out heavy machinery and other tools. The safe was moved further into the barn, but unfortunately, those who witnessed it being opened never revealed what was actually inside of it. I know that it's a bummer, but to quell your curiosity, most of the farmers
we done seen hands and teeth. Why not it be a safe full of ears?
Believed that the safe was a prank left behind by some of the teens living near the area. Many of the people believed that the safe only contained a stinky carpet or another letter with a silly message. However, there's also the incredibly slim chance that they discovered a priceless treasure or a small jewel. There are surely a lot more things out there that were discovered in the most unexpected places. If you have a similar discovery, let me know about it in the comments down below.
I don't think nothing's crazier than the lady holding on and finding a ring as a child, holding on to it for 40 years, and then just out of the blue one day just decides that, hey, I'm gonna go find the owners to this ring. That's different. That's different. I don't even know what, like I said, she had to be bored. Had to be bored. No other excuse. You know what I mean? But y'all get at me in the comment section and let me know what you thought of this video, man. And stick around and stay tuned. Till the next one, I'm gone. Peace.